guys, welcome back to Jeremiah's channel, and today we're reading Captain Underpants and the Invasion of the Incredibly Naughty Cafeteria Ladies from Outer Space in the Subsequent Assault of the Equally Evil Lunchroom Zombie Nerds. It's a pretty long name. Hello, it's us again. Before you read this book, there's some things you should know. So George and I have created this informative pamphlet to fill you in with on the details. Please don't let this comment fall into the wrong hands. George Beard and Harold Hunges present a Deny Everything production. Captain Underpants Wedgie Wars. Episode 1, The Phantom Principal. A long time ago in an elementary school far, far away, there were two cool kids named George and Harold. We rule, me too. They had an evil principal named Mr. Krupp who was strong in the ways of the Force. Blah, blah, blah. He forced them to study. Blah, blah, blah. He forced them to clean. Blah, blah, blah. And he forced them to behave. Ha, ha, ha. So George and Harold hypnotized him. You will obey our every command. Okay. You are now Captain Underpants. Okay. Ha ha ha. It started out as a joke, but it wasn't funny for long. Ha ha ha. Tra-la-la. Hey, come back. Mr. Krupp thought he was really the world's greatest superhero. He got into all kinds of trouble. George and Harold had to save him and the entire planet twice. Now, the only way they can turn Captain Underpants back into Mr. Krupp is to pour water over his head. But the worst part is that George and Harold have to keep an eye on Mr. Krupp. Blah, blah, blah. Because for some strange reason, whenever he hears somebody snap their fingers, he turns into you-know-who. Tra-la-la. So whatever you do, please don't snap your fingers around Mr. Krupp. You heard the man. Please don't. Please don't snap those fingers. This has been a public service announcement from George and Harold, who still deny everything. Treehouse Comics. This Chapter 1. George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. George is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. Today's lunch. New tasty cheese and lentil pot pie. If you were looking for a few words to describe George and Harold, you might come up with kind, funny, smart, determined, and deep. And just ask their principal, Mr. Krupp. He'll tell you that George and Harold are kind of funny-looking smart Alex who are determined to drive everyone off the deep end. But don't listen to him. George and Harold are actually very clever and good-hearted boys. Their only problem is that they're fourth graders. And at George and Harold School, fourth graders are expected to sit still and pay attention for 7 hours a day. George and Harold are just not very good at that. The only thing George and Harold are good at is being silly. Unfortunately, George and Harold's silliness gets them into trouble every now and then. Sometimes it gets them into a lot of trouble. And one time it got them into so much trouble it almost caused the entire Earth to be destroyed by an army of giant zombie nerds. But before I tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Today's lunch. Nasty toilet pee-pee sandwiches. Chapter 3. The Evil Space Guys. One dark, clear night in Peculiar, Ohio, a flaming object was seen streaking across the quiet midnight sky. It shone brightly for a second or two, then fizzled out just above Jerome Horwitz Elementary School. Nobody gave it a second thought. The next day, everything seemed pretty normal. Nobody noticed anything different about the school. Nobody paid any attention to the roof. And of course, nobody looked up and said, "Hey, what's that big spaceship thingy doing on the roof of the school?" Perhaps they had the terrible ordeal that followed might never have happened, and you won't be sitting here reading about it right now. But they didn't. It did, and well, here we are. As we can all plainly see, there was a spaceship on top of the building, and inside that spaceship were three most evil, hideous, and merciless spacemen. Were three of the most evil, hideous, and merciless spacemen to ever to set foot on the roof of a Midwestern elementary school. Their names were Zorks, Clax, and Jennifer. Their mission to take over planet Earth. "Fast," said Zorks. "We must find a way to infiltrate the school." "Then," said Clax, "we will return all the children into the giant, superpowered, evil zombie nerds." "Finally," said Jennifer, "we will use them to take over the world." Zorks and Clax laughed and laughed. "Silence, you fools," barked Jennifer. "If our plan is to work, we must wait until it is narrowly convenient. In the meantime, we will watch their every move on our trinocloscope. Trinocloscope. I don't know how to say that. Chapter 3. Fun with Science. Early that same morning, George and Harold were sitting in their 10:15 a.m. science class making silly noises. Meow. George meowed softly without moving his lips. "Roar," growled Harold without opening his mouth. "There it is again!" exclaimed the science teacher, mystified. "I distinctly heard a cat and a dog in there." "We didn't hear anything," the children said, trying not to laugh. "I must be hearing things again," Mr. Fide worried. "Maybe you should leave and go see a doctor," said George with concern. "I can't," said Mr. Fide. "Today is the day of the big volcano experiment. The children all groaned. Mr. Fide's science experiments were usually the most idiotic things on earth. They almost never worked and were always boring. But today's experiment was different. Mr. Fide brought in a large, fake-looking volcano that he had made out of paper mache. He filled the volcano with a box of ordinary baking soda. "Baking soda is also called sodium bicarbonate," exclaimed Mr. Fide.